Hello and welcome back to Disney Journey. I'm retired Imagineer Jim Shull, and on today's journey, we're going to be going to Disneyland and heading upriver to an area of the park that really wasn't part of the park when it first opened, but became a beautiful and beloved part of the park, which even though it's now gone, we still remember. Of course, I'm talking about Big Thunder Ranch. Your bag is packed. It's time to get started. Frontierland at Disneyland had two distinct elements, two distinct designs. There was the frontier town that was civilized, at least as civilized as something could be in the 1880s. And then there was the area upriver. Generations of ducks have lived on this water, and they've been constantly being shuffled around as Disneyland claimed what had been vacant in 1955 for new projects. And animals, fur and feathered, would be living back in this area for decades to come. Way back here in the far north area, the raw land that was available was used for many attractions of all kinds. Among the attractions were the Indian Village, the pack train, the wagon, the stagecoach, and of course, the train. This whole area was a favorite of Walt's, and he had his eye on expansion. The train through nature's wonderland absorbed all of the formerly vacant land. With the addition of nature's wonderland, Disneyland now had a border, a true border of attractions, because originally in 1955, Disneyland went out to Winston Road, which is an area today given over to Galaxy's Edge. What had been farmland or vacant land now is a place you can go far, far, far away. Remnants of the old Winston Road are still viewable. If you're on the tram and you look to the side, you'll see through this gate the old Winston Road remnant. Winston Road was a public street and it defined Disneyland's border. That vacant land was used for the pony farm and other purposes. Frontierland may have been wide open, but it did have a lot of capacity. And at the top of the list was Nature's Wonderland, a high-capacity, family-friendly ride right across from Tom Sawyer's Island. It leveraged a lot of the things that Disneyland had opened with, but it turned the lever up to 11. Now, for the first time, there was more character animation, there were more gags, and there was a lot of capacity, which Disneyland needed as it was becoming increasingly popular, and they needed more things for people to do, like looking at geysers and cactuses with faces. Although popular, Nature's Wonderland's time was limited. Thunder Mountain Railroad added a high-speed, family-friendly roller coaster to the west side of the park. It also fleshed out the entire mythos of Frontierland and started a tradition and a mythology that actually is extended through multiple parks, Disney parks around the world. Thunder Mountain also did two things. It freed land because Nature's Wonderland, well, it had a lot of capacity, but it took a lot of land. Whereas Thunder Mountain, it occupied about half the land, and it had much more capacity. So on a guest per carried basis, it was a better deal. Adding 800 per hour capacity to the west side of the park was a good win-win. But it also did something else, which is to free up a piece of land that had been occupied by Nature's Wonderland. And that freed this area up for expansion. For if there had been no Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, there could never have been a Big Thunder Ranch. No place to see the happiest horses on earth. Or for that matter, no place to dig into a plate of barbecue with sides, of which I confess I had a lot of sides. And it was all good. It was all good, and especially there back in the trees and the woods with nature and animals, it felt a million miles away from Southern California, the California I grew up in, the California of tract houses and suburbs, and live country music. And shade. Did I mention the trees and the animals? There was also just a lot of ambience and a place that allowed you to slow down. It was a non-programmed land. And back tucked away was the old settler's cabin, which had a lot of history behind it. In fact, it was moved till it was finally taken down for Galaxy's Edge, which we'll get to. Thunder Ranch had charm, and it also had no lines. There was never a time that someone forced you into a queue to do an activity. You could proceed at your own pace. And that included going over and seeing the animals. Give them a hug. A good word of advice was stay out of the pathway of a running goat. Also, the cows. Mickey Mood, for example, a cow who retired to Anaheim. Next to the goats. Next to the reindeer? Yeah, reindeer. Santa also made residence here. And then, of course, the turkeys. The happiest turkeys on earth. Well, I'd be happy too if the president, one or two of them, pardoned me. For the days of bipartisanship. Vacant land is valuable, and few pieces were as valuable as Big Thunder Ranch. So occasionally they'd have temporary neighbors, such as when the state fair moved in. Which, of course, it had animals, it had pigs. And it was popular, so popular they did it twice on 2 separate years. And people came out, again, on the assumption that this was so atypical to what you'd find living in Southern California. Still later, an area of Big Thunder Ranch was carved out as a stage, outdoor stage, to host the Hunchback of Notre Dame Festival of Fools. Now, honestly, I never saw the connection between, medieval France and goats and pigs and cows, but I'm a purist. Finally, this site was claimed for a bigger purpose, the obvious one, which was to build a new land. Although maybe not obvious that they'd build a Star Wars land there, but that's what they did. So Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was built, and it claimed the entire area, all the vacant area, and some of the back of house too. The epic expansion of Disneyland took several years, but when it was completed, finally, people could step onto the new planet in which, well, I can't say their favorite characters are there from Star Wars, but some of them are, or at least their ships are. And then there's just a lot to do, a lot of interesting things to look at and see. The environment is impressive, I'll give it that. It's grand, a bit arid. It has a couple of great rides, at least the technology is great. And it is an enhancement to Disneyland proper, granting it a lot of capacity. But it did take over everything that was left over. There really, truly is no other place to go unless they want to move out into Interstate 5. And I don't think the state of California is going to look kindly on that idea. Today you can see remnants of Big Thunder Ranch. There are lots of little clues and leftovers if you know where to look. We did lose the goats. We did lose the music. And we certainly lost the barbecue that we all once enjoyed at Big Thunder Ranch. That brings this episode to a close, but there'll be another one real soon, so keep your bag packed. Be sure also to hit that little bell notification button to be notified of my next episode. And thank you again for sending me your comments, because I do read every single one. Until next time then, it's goodbye from Lost Canyon.